Welcome back to another episode of Amanda and Oscar. Today we will be talking about how to dominate the listening and understanding process. As we both know, it's probably the hardest part about learning a foreign language. However, before we get there, I just want to say we've been away for a long time, but now we're back to making videos, so please subscribe to help our channel grow. Also, for whatever reason you are on the wrong video, click the link in the description box below for Oscar's version in Spanish. Alrighty, so understanding. What does it mean to understand your target language? Your goal is to understand 80 to 90% of what is being said by a native speaker at a normal talking rate. So in order to get there, I have 4 kind of tips, tricks, and places for you. So the first one are my resources. Specific to Spanish, unfortunately, but you can still apply it to any language, just not with the resources I'm offering you. So I find that I greatly benefited from a podcast called Radiolingua. Radiolingua.com is the link. I'll link it below. And Coffee Break Spanish and Showtime Spanish are the podcasts that I listen to. Mark, the host, he does an excellent job of going through grammar and vocabulary, and he also forces you to listen to a conversation held between him and a native Spanish speaker, and over time you find yourself catching more and more of what's being said, and that's why I love it so much. I absolutely adore it. You just have to check it out for yourself to listen and find out what I'm talking about. So try to listen to 3 to 4 different podcasts a week. You listen to those 3 to 4 podcasts several times, you should be listening to these podcasts 6 or 7 days, so basically every day. And each time, try to see if you can understand more than the last time. My second tip for you is how to manipulate the television so that it helps you learn a language. Believe it or not, watching TV in your target language can be incredibly helpful. I will recommend to you a show featured on Netflix that I used to understand spoken Spanish, and I'll explain how to do it exactly. So I use the show El Internado, a Spanish TV series, because it has everything. It has romance, it has drama, and it definitely has a dark historical side, but you'll have to watch it to find out because I don't want to reveal anything. Just know it happens in a boarding school because it's called The Boarding School. There are 7 seasons and approximately 15 to 20 episodes of 50 minutes each. I watched the first 3 to 4 seasons using Spanish subtitles only, and I know it sounds daunting not to have the subtitles in English, but trust me, it's not that bad. The reason why I do use subtitles, a lot of people will say, no, don't listen to subtitles, it'll never help you learn. But it will. It helps you recognize the sound with the word. So when you see it written and then you hear it, you form a connection. But at one point, you're going to have to give it up. I watched the last 2 or 3 seasons without any subtitles. No English, no Spanish. I just forced myself to listen to what was being said. And oftentimes, I forgot I was even watching it in Spanish. I forgot I was so into the show that I completely forgot that I was learning, the way that because in the beginning I didn't understand anything, and by the end I was understanding almost everything. So how I got that far was I always kept Google Translate open on my computer browser, and when I noticed a vocabulary word being repeated several times, I would look it up. Simple. So the goal here is not to know everything, but to catch the main idea. Another thing that I was able to do was I recognized patterns in the way that people spoke, so grammatical patterns, I mean. The patterns turned out to be structures, weird verb conjugations and weird tenses and weird spellings of verbs. I was like, what's that? It was a subjunctive after all. So whenever I noticed something that I just had no idea where to go with, I would take the time and I would look it up, and it turned out to be a new grammar thing, and I would study it on my own, ask my teachers, ask my friends exactly how to use it. So that's that. So the next thing I want to show you is how to use your time wisely. I mean, I feel like this shouldn't be a tip, and I don't really have to show you anything, but you should be dedicating a lot of time to learning Spanish if you truly want to become fluent, or Portuguese, or German, or Russian, or Chinese, or Hindu, or whatever language that you plan on learning. You have to spend the time to learn it. I listen to my podcast every single morning, except for Sundays, and I watch 3 to 4 episodes of El Internado each week, in addition to practicing and speaking with native speakers, but that's next week's video. Just make sure you don't cut yourself short. You really need to put in the time, because you're going to end up at the same place if you're only watching 1 episode a week. You're not going to get anywhere. You really have to force your brain to think. But you also need to give yourself a break as well. So you have to find your balance, but you should be spending a couple of hours each week trying to understand Spanish. My 4th tip for you is about music. Surprisingly, well, it's not surprising, but unfortunately, music is greatly underrated and greatly underestimated in the language learning world, because it has a beat to it and it's almost impossible to understand. I can't even understand half the English songs. But it's true. It's not the most effective way to learn to understand your target language, but it's definitely the most fun way. So if you find yourself getting bored by your podcast one morning, pause it and play a song in the language that you're trying to learn. Immerse yourself in the culture. Learn the lyrics. You can even learn from the lyrics. I mean, not always, because, you know, songs aren't always grammatically correct or use a lot of slang, but it's fun. So I actually like Chino y Nacho and Enrique Iglesias. Their songs are catchy, and I can't help it, but I really love it. So if you have any song suggestions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll start checking those ones out. So what are your favorite songs in Spanish? Do you like Spanish music? Do you like Latino music, reggaeton? You know, let me know. So those are my 4 tips for learning to understand the language. Sometimes this is the hardest part, and it was for me, but with a little bit of elbow grease and patience, you will find yourself listening in on our conversations. Eavesdropping is the best part of bilingualism, I promise. So make sure to subscribe, like I said before, for new